Welcome to the Just Because Diaries, where real life meets random chats and plenty of mom moments, all while reclaiming joy in the seemingly mundane. I'm Celeste, a mom, but also a whole-ass person, navigating the balance of motherhood while rediscovering the joy in doing things just for myself. From the chaos of parenting to the little moments that make life fun, nothing is off limits. So grab a cup of coffee or something stronger, and let's get into it. Today is going to be a little bit of a different episode. I got an email from a listener who is expecting their first baby, and they had a whole bunch of questions. So today I am going to go over all of the newborn/baby things. And because we have a whole lot to go through today, I'm going to go ahead and skip the Just Because moment this week. But before we dive into the listener questions, I thought I would just give a little life update on what's been going on in the O'Hara household these days. Miles is back to school this week. His first day was on Monday, and you may be shocked to hear that I did not totally sob on his first day. Of course, I teared up because I will never get over the fact that my babies are growing up, but it was a really great first day by all accounts. He really likes his teacher a lot, and he has some friends from last year in his class, and then the ones that he doesn't have in his class, he still gets to see on the playground. And when I picked him up from school, the first thing he said to me was, "Today was the best day of my life." So I think he had a really, really wonderful first day. And then after school, the four of us went to Froyo, and it was just a really wonderful way to kick off the school year for him. And for anyone wondering, no, my maybe arch nemesis's kiddo is not in Miles' class, so I'm guessing I won't be seeing a ton of her this year. But it is also occurring to me that new kids in the class means new parents and new moms to meet. So that is making me super nervous. So cool. But anyway, I'm sure that the burning question that all of you have been thinking about ever since last episode is, how is Keeley's potty training going? Well, I am so very glad you asked, and I am so happy to announce that we are finally out of the woods there. She is doing amazing. She is great, and I am just really happy to be done with the stressful part of that phase. And lastly, my butterfly cardigan. She is done. And she's also a sweater, even though I was pretty set on making it a cardigan. But at the last minute, I decided, nope, she's a sweater. And I am so obsessed with it. It is so beautiful, and I am just so incredibly proud of it. But I won't be able to wear it for forever because it's currently 90 degrees outside. So until it cools down, I'm just gonna stare at it and wear it around my house and force my family to tell me how cool it is because I just love it so much. And also, a bonus to my butterfly sweater, I also accidentally made a butterfly shawl because I made the original panel way too big the first time around. But I didn't want to destroy it because it was a whole lot of work. So I kept it, and now I have a super cool butterfly shawl. So that's also very exciting. So first day of school, potty training, and butterfly sweater updates aside, let's jump into today's episode. I received an email from a really lovely couple in the UK who are expecting their first baby this year, and they had a whole bunch of questions that they wondered if I would address in a future episode. So, of course, I said that I would be happy to, but instead of doing a Q&A kind of thing where I read every single question and then answer it, I kind of grouped their questions together into different categories, so I will be answering that way. But as a bit of a caveat before I get into it, everything I'm sharing today is based on my personal experiences and opinions. So definitely use your own judgment and do your own research when it comes to, current recommendations, safety, all those kinds of things. And obviously, when it comes to anything medical or safety related, your pediatrician is going to be a much better resource than me. Also, I will be linking any items that I mention in my show notes, but full disclosure, those will be affiliate links, which means that if you choose to purchase through those links, I will get a little kickback. So now that all of that is out of the way, let's get started. First up, what baby gear do you actually recommend? what developmental items are worth having, and what should new parents keep in mind when buying baby gear. I totally understand the overwhelm of what baby gear to get for your baby, as I'm sure any parent who is expecting their first child has experienced. When I was expecting Miles, someone told me about a site called babybargains.com. Yes, it sounds a little bit scammy, but trust me, it's totally not. It's actually a website that recommends products based on unbiased reviews by experts. On their website, you can search up whatever items you're interested in, and they'll give their feedback on, like, the top 5 rotating car seats, or like which travel strollers are best, that kind of thing. But one caveat I have about their website is that they have retired and they have stopped their regular updating process. So just keep in mind that some of the information is going to be older. But even still, I think that they are a great resource when it comes to researching baby care. Anyway, what items do I actually recommend? Personally, I think that a baby carrier is everything. Whether or not you choose a wrap carrier or like a more harnessy kind of carrier, it's totally up to you. It's personal preference. I had both of those and I loved both for different reasons. But regardless, a carrier, period, just made my life so much easier because it just gives you a bit of freedom while still being close to baby. Like, you can use your arms for things that aren't just holding baby. So I personally love a carrier. A swaddle was also a must for my kids. I preferred a sleep sack swaddle combo for mine, but there are so many others on the market. One disclaimer about swaddles, though: my babies both loved to be swaddled, but some babies totally hate it. And unfortunately, you won't know how your baby feels until you try. When it comes to clothing, I always prefer to have a bunch of basics on hand, like bodysuits and footy pajamas, those kinds of things. And I say a bunch because babies spit up a lot and have diaper explosions all the time. So having multiples of those items meant that I didn't have to run the washer every single time something got dirty. But the most important thing about clothing, in my opinion anyway, is how you put the clothing on. Are the closures buttons, or are they snaps or zippers? I love a 2-way zipper on any footy pajamas because it just made diaper changing so much easier, especially in those late night, early hours when you can barely even think straight. And for anything with snap closures, a lot of brands have started to color one snap so that you can always match it up, and then it makes securing all the snaps a little easier. I love that. And because I can't tell you the amount of times that I have mismatched snaps and then I end up having to start over and over again. So the colored snap was a huge game changer for me, and I absolutely recommend looking for outfits that have those. I think for the most part, the snap was always kind of like a coppery gold color, so just something to keep in mind when you're out shopping for baby clothes. But as far as what to dress your baby in, this is all up to you and your style. So just have fun with it. If you have a favorite sports team, maybe you can get them a sports jersey or, whatever you want. Just have fun with it. Moving on to toys, there were some questions about what toys are good for babies, what developmental toys are good for infancy, and what toys did my kids actually enjoy and use. So my kids loved tactile toys, like little rattles that would talk and sing and light up, or just like make noise of any kind. They loved anything squishy or crinkly, teethers, stacking cups, all that kind of stuff. Honestly, the more basic the toy was, the more they loved it in the very beginning. We have purchased and been gifted all kinds of baby toys. Some had, all the bells and whistles, and my kids would be interested in those for a little bit, but they would always go back to the stacking cups. So all that to say that sometimes the more basic, the better. But I will say that one thing my kids loved as babies was a play mat. I loved the Fisher-Price Glow and Grow mat because baby can use it for many stages of babyhood, and it was always really great for distracting during tummy time. And the songs that it sings aren't annoying. Like, I didn't hate them. I actually really liked them. So I thought that was something unique because A lot of times, parents come to hate the music that their baby toys make. So that was a big bonus for me with this mat as well. Board books are also wonderful to have. Any books by any authors, maybe there are some you like, or just books that you like the look of. You can just go nuts, have fun with this. There are also books and toys that are made in black and white that are great for babies, since they can really only see high contrast for the first little bit of their lives. So if that is something you'd want to explore, then there you go. But truly, any books you buy or are gifted will be perfect. We have such a huge variety of board books in my house, and there isn't a single one that my kids haven't loved at one point or another. Later on, there will be books to help your kiddo adjust to potty training or getting rid of the pacifier or things like that. But at the start, just reading books to your baby is the most important thing, regardless of what the topic is. Next, I had a question about TV and any programs that I would recommend. And personally, I did not incorporate TV or screen time before my kids were at least 18 months old. But that was a personal choice. Instead of TV, I preferred to play music. And sometimes that was classical music. Sometimes it was kid songs. And other times it was the Spice Girls or whatever I felt like listening to that day. But now that my kids are older, we love Bluey and anything Mickey Mouse or like really anything on Disney Plus. I also love anything on the PBS Kids app, which in the UK, I think the closest thing to PBS Kids would be CBeebies. Next up, all things feeding related. Feeding is truly such a personal decision for each mother. And I just want to say that there is no wrong way to feed your baby. Whether you breastfeed, pump and give a bottle, give formula as a supplement, or exclusively give formula, whatever way is best for you and for baby is the best way. And the same goes for how long you choose to breastfeed your baby. Some moms choose to go for a short time, others choose to go for a long time. It's totally up to you and your personal preferences. With Miles, I think I pumped until he started solids around 6 months old. I had a really hard time with breastfeeding and ended up exclusively pumping and then later supplementing with formula. When I was pregnant with him, my expectation was that I would be able to breastfeed no problem because I had never experienced anyone in my life who had trouble breastfeeding. But that just wasn't the case for me, unfortunately. And no matter how hard I tried, I was never able to get my supply up. And not being able to breastfeed successfully definitely stirred up a lot of guilt and shame in me that was really hard to handle at the time, especially when Miles's pediatrician literally told me I was starving my child at like our second appointment with him ever. I can laugh about it now. I did not laugh about it at the time. And also, yes, babies do lose weight after birth. That is super common. But telling a new mom who is already struggling with breastfeeding that she is starving her child was probably not the best way to go. And then when I asked him for help or advice on how to increase my supply, he just kind of like got embarrassed and told me I'd have to talk to someone else about that. So that was super helpful. But he did tell me to supplement with formula so as not to continue, quote unquote, starving my child, which I honestly had never considered up until that point because I assumed that I would be able to successfully breastfeed. So from that point on, I pumped whatever I could, but the majority of his food was formula. I tell that story just for any moms out there who might find themselves in a similar situation. As someone who struggled with breastfeeding, please know that you are not doing anything wrong. Sometimes breastfeeding is harder for some women than others. And something I didn't know then that I know now is that there are resources available. So if you find that you're struggling, definitely consult with your pediatrician or see a lactation consultant or both. And if you ultimately decide that breastfeeding is not for you and you'd prefer to give formula, that is absolutely fine too. That is actually exactly what I did with Keeley. I attempted pumping in the very early days in case my body had somehow decided to change from when I had Miles. But when I realized that it hadn't, then I just went full formula. I stopped pumping entirely, and my mental health was so much better as a result. The formula I chose for both of my kids was Hip Organic. They both took to that formula really well, thankfully, but sometimes different formula brands can be upsetting for baby's tummy, or they just might not even like it. So be aware that sometimes there can be a bit of a trial and error before you settle on a formula brand that works well for your baby. The same goes for baby bottles and nipples. Some babies can be super particular on those, so my recommendation to friends is to maybe get one or two different bottles. Don't buy an entire set of them just in case your baby ends up totally hating it. Yes, the bottle may be listed on Baby Bargains as the best bottle in the entire world, but your baby may still hate it. And then you're now stuck with 1,000 bottles and parts that you are just not going to use. So my opinion is just grab one or two to start and then go from there. Anyway, no matter which feeding path you choose or end up on, breastfeeding, pumping, formula, whatever gets your baby fed and happy and works well for you is the best option. And of course, always feel free to consult your pediatrician, who will hopefully not be a total dick like Miles' pediatrician was. In terms of giving baby solids much later down the line, I chose to follow the baby-led weaning approach, and that worked really well for us. The gist of baby-led weaning is that you start around 6 months when baby is developmentally ready. That's important. And you offer your baby the same foods that you eat every day, but just cut up appropriately for a baby, and you let them feed themselves. It is a total mess. There will be food everywhere, but I had so much fun following that approach with my kids, and for some reason, I even kept a list of their first 100 foods. At the time, this felt very important to me. Now I know that I will literally do nothing with that information, but it was always fun to add new food to the list and to see all of the different things that they had already tried. Of course, there are many different ways to introduce solids to your baby, but baby-led weaning was what we decided to go with and what worked best for us. Moving on to a big one, sleep. When it comes to sleep, there are so many opinions out there on where baby should sleep, how baby should sleep, so I will just give you mine. We had both babies sleep in bedside bassinets when they were newborns so that they were near our bed and so that we could easily access them throughout the night. Just a quick note on sleep safety, though. You can always check with the AAP, or in the UK, you can check with the NHS for lots of information on sleep safety. Anyway, once my kids started rolling, so around 4 months old, we moved them out of the bassinet and into a crib in our room. And then eventually we moved their crib into their own room. The timing on moving the crib into their own room was different for each kiddo, and I honestly cannot remember how we decided it was time. So I guess it was just one of those things where we felt comfortable and just kind of knew, and we did it. For naps, most often we had the babies nap in either their bassinet or the crib when we were at home, but sometimes, especially with Keeley, since we were on the go a lot more often because Miles was in a lot of activities, I'd have her nap on me in her carrier, or I would put her in her bassinet attachment on the stroller. Now, for two words that rile up a whole lot of people, sleep training. There are a lot of opinions on this topic, a whole lot. I chose to sleep train my kids. We followed the BabyWise method, which follows an eat-wake-sleep schedule throughout the day. I think BabyWise is also pro Cry It Out, which has become increasingly unpopular over the years, but we chose not to incorporate Cry It Out as part of our sleep training for both kids, and it was still really super successful for us. I think that quite often people associate sleep training with Cry It Out, like they're one and the same, but like I said, we did not implement Cry It Out at all, and we still had a whole lot of success. Like everything in parenting, sleep training is a very personal decision. We chose to go that route because I highly, highly value sleep. Like, it is one of my core values as a person. So when a friend recommended the BabyWise method to me, I looked into it and decided to give it a shot. But sleep training isn't for everyone, and that is just fine as well. There was a question about what to do during sleep regressions, and to that, all I can really tell you is to have patience. It is super hard when those happen. They can be incredibly exhausting for all involved, baby, parents, but they aren't forever. I used to use apps called the Wonder Weeks and Huckleberry, both of which are apps that help to track your baby's growth spurts, or leaps, as I think they call them, which is when sleep regressions tend to happen. I loved those apps because they would always kind of give me a heads up before a growth spurt as a sort of like, hey girl, prepare yourself. And it would track when the growth spurt would start and how long it would last. So I found that to be super helpful for me. During the longer leaps, I would aim to make life as easy as possible for us. So that meant no super involved dinners to make, no big plans to like do anything. We just kept it super duper simple, and that really worked for us. Then we could just focus on the leap and getting out of it. There was a question about having a bedtime routine, which, yes, I think that is a great idea. What worked for us was a low nightlight, sound machine, reading a book or two, singing a song, and then saying a prayer. But whatever feels good to you will be perfect. Just try to stick to the same routine so that your baby knows what to expect. To me, that's the real key, rather than like what you're actually doing during the bedtime routine. A lot of families incorporate bath time as part of their bedtime routine, and we did that as well when both the babies were little. One question I got was about how to make bath time fun and playful, but also calm. And I think for us, we would start to calm things down when it came time to do the washing. Like everything before that could be fun and splashing and crazy, but then we would start to lower our voices and have slower movements for the last bit of bath to kind of start to prepare for the rest of the bedtime routine. I was also asked where I stand on pacifiers. I am pro pacifier, so I did give my kids pacifiers. We call them choopies around here. This decision was kind of made for me in the hospital after Miles was born. A nurse came in and just kind of popped it in his mouth, and I just went with it. But I'm really glad I did, because for my kids, pacifiers have been amazing. They were definitely great for soothing and for helping both kids fall asleep. They had one whenever they wanted, which was most of the time. And as for when to wean baby off of a pacifier, Miles's dentist recommended weaning him before he was 3. I have also heard that it gets much, much harder to wean a 3-plus-year-old off of a pacifier. So Miles was around 3, and Keeley will be as well. But we haven't started that process with her just yet. With Miles, we waited until after he had a really great handle on potty training before we started to wean him off the choopy. We just wanted to have like one big thing at a time. So we're going to do the same thing with Keeley, but like swaddles, some babies hate pacifiers and they will reject every single brand and type you give them. So it's just another one of those things where you won't know until you do. There were quite a few questions about how to engage baby both during pregnancy and after birth, and I think this is the most fun about having a baby. During pregnancy, David would hold and talk to my belly all the time. I think both of the kids even recognized his voice in utero because they would kick when he spoke sometimes, and it was super adorable and really sweet for both of us to be able to experience that. And then once baby is born, you get to chat to baby or sing to baby, read books, tickle, play peekaboo, all those sorts of things. There was one question asking if babies eventually grow out of certain types of play. And to that, I say that you'll learn what your baby likes and dislikes during play in time. Some babies hate being tickled or just aren't ticklish, and others love being tickled. So you just kind of need to follow your baby's cues and you'll be great. But all of those things, engaging your baby in general is valuable because babies learn through interacting with the people around them. And things like talking and singing, reading, touching, and playing gives them opportunities to engage with you and their environment. Now, the last thing I want to address before I move on to some general advice that was shared by other listeners was a question about what if I pass something down to my child and it's my fault, like medically. And I just want to stress that having a developmental difference isn't something a parent has done to their child. Really important to know. There was also a question about what the likelihood would be of passing down certain medical things to their child. And honestly, that's a question that I'm not qualified to answer, so I'm not going to pretend that I am, but it is great to have awareness of your own medical history to be able to pass that information on to your child's pediatrician. And the pediatrician will be able to help you in terms of things to look out for and ways to assist if you find that you or your partner are having concerns about your baby's development. So don't be afraid to ask your pediatrician questions, especially when it comes to those kinds of concerns. Finally, I asked Instagram if anyone had any questions and or advice that they wanted to give for this episode, and I did get a few tidbits of advice that I really want to share with you all. One is to trust your gut. Yes, it is a little cliche, I know, but it's just the honest truth. I was terrified when I was pregnant with Miles. I was so worried that I wouldn't know what I was doing, and it all felt very, 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 very overwhelming for me. I had taken some classes. I took a breastfeeding class and a basic child safety class, but the second Miles was born and I was holding him in my arms, that worry about not knowing what I was doing sort of just fell away a little bit. I will say that that feeling doesn't totally go away ever, because as your baby grows and each new phase happens, I still question myself if I'm doing the right thing. But I know that I was really surprised at how much I just knew, or how much just came to me naturally after Miles was born, and I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised by that as well. Another piece of advice along the same vein that honestly just deserves to be an episode on its own was listen to your heart more and listen to the internet less. The internet, especially social media, is so full of people who think that they know what's best. But I find that this is especially true for parents and babies. They're everywhere. Some of them are licensed professionals like therapists and pediatricians and, along that vein. And then others are just parents or regular people who are just sharing their opinions. But the thing is, you know your baby better than anyone else. It is so easy to get sucked into these pages. Trust me, I know. Because you know how the algorithms work. Once you start engaging with a certain type of content, you get totally blasted by it. And I know I have definitely had to dig myself out of the motherhood algo because it just became way too much. I started to doubt myself and doubt my parenting, which is honestly just like such bullshit. And while those accounts can be helpful in a lot of ways, they can be equally as harmful to you and your mental health. So just keep that in mind as you scroll. They're not intentionally trying to do this, but I find that is what has happened to me. So yes, I fully agree with this advice to listen to the internet less. And again, trust your gut. Okay, that was a whole lot of information, and I hope that at least some of it was helpful. Again, I will link to items that I mentioned and have used personally in my show notes, so feel free to check those out. But thank you so much for submitting your questions and advice. And if anyone listening has some advice that they would like to add, feel free to email me at thejustbecausediaries@gmail.com, and I will do my best to forward that information along. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Just Because Diaries. If you have questions that you would like to ask or just want to share how you have been adding whimsy into your everyday life, feel free to shoot me an email anytime about anything at all to thejustbecausediaries@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at thejustbecausediaries. And finally, it would mean the world to me if you could please take a few seconds to rate and review my podcast by hitting that 5-star button and leaving me a little love note in the review section. And please share this episode with a friend who you think might enjoy being part of this budding community. Thanks so much again for listening. I so appreciate you being here, and I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.